Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Summer 2018. I'm deep sea fishing with my uncle because he hasn't got long to live at the time. Dude smoked like a chimney most of the time I'd known him, and they found growths on his lungs. We're about 40 or 50 miles from the coast. We made a lengthy trip on a small boat he'd had since apparently 1986. Cast out a good distance from the boat, nothing. No clouds, no real choppy waters. Then we feel this object right below us collide, shake the boat hard enough the cooler with beer, and the bait cooler get knocked free and go overboard. My uncle starts screaming, "What the hell was that shit?" Fucking hell. See this long, thick shape dart out, just barely visible underneath the water. It's just a long, shiny, dark shape. It disappears into the sea. We don't see it again. Uncle decides we're done because there's no use in being out there with no beer or bait. Tells me if we had either, we'd wait to see it come back. Takes about an hour to get back to the docks and load the boat on the truck. My uncle asks me if I saw its head. I say no. Tells me that's good because he did, and he was scared shitless by it, and says it looked like a dinosaur mixed with the devil. Tell him all I saw was it being a thick, snake-like body. I guess he told one of his fishing buddies about it, and they all only talked about what a great kill its head would make on a fireplace mantle. Look up various marine reptiles and aquatic dinosaurs, but nothing really fits. This happened about 40 or 50 miles northwest off the coast of Maine. I still don't know what I saw.
Be me, camping alone in the national forest on the Washington-Idaho border. I spent a lot of time around here, very comfortable in the area. Way up a fire road, nobody around. The place I'm camping was well frequented a few months ago. Know for a fact nobody's around anymore. Cooked dinner in Cedar Grove, comfy but dark. Set up a big tarp to sleep under. Open on one side, roomy. Pretty much only good to keep the rain off me. Notice the wind has stopped completely. It gets really quiet, get a bad feeling. That feeling. Nope. Pack shit up in the dark, put the fire out. Leave, drive down the mountain, gonna find a fire road and just camp there. Get a creeping feeling that my fire isn't all the way out. People will know it was me if a fire starts, god damn it. Go back to the meadow. The bad feeling returns. Park, turn high beams on. Pointing into the forest, going through the woods reminds me of every UFO movie ever. Trees are throwing weird shadows. Nerves are getting to me. Find a fire spot, it's cold. A really unsettling feeling now. Notice metallic smell, kind of like copper and sulfur, but less of a smell and more like a gaseous feeling in my sinuses. The wind stops. Everything is completely silent. Look around. Trees look weird. Look at the car. Looks like it's getting further away from me. Kind of like pick-related. But I'm standing still, and it's standing still. Nope. Sprint to the car, drive down the mountain, feel like a wuss, decide to sleep in the car in the forest, a little closer to civilization. 4 a.m. Woken up to a weird vibration. There's nothing in my car that should be vibrating besides my phone, which is in my hand. Nope. In and out of sleep for an hour, finally wake up, drive up a mountain, drink coffee, and watch the sun rise. Haven't camped there alone since. Same forest. Worked and lived in this forest on and off for a few years. Often I was the guy who was up driving at night or other dumb times. Would often work all day and then have to drive for parts or gas at a central location. Location was just inside the national forest. But on a road with some houses and cabins on it, locals would put up signs saying, Area 52, alien containment or shit to be funny. One local builds pick related on his hill overlooking a turn in the road. Was always off-putting. The first time I passed by it, the guy I'm driving up with says, There are 7 friends on the hill, WTF. He explains that if you say it out loud, there will always be 7 and they won't move. Ask what happens if you don't say it. Just say it every time, dude. Fast forward a year or two, 3 a.m. coming back from the supply place. Already hallucinating kinda bad, but roll down the window to keep myself cold and alert. The work truck has shitty crank windows, having to mess with it. Coming up on the turn. See movement out of the peripheral. Lots of deer in the forest, sometimes moose. Can't risk smoking a deer at 2 a.m. in the work truck. Whip head over, look, nothing there. Look back at the top of the hill, get a weird feeling. Didn't count, but there definitely aren't that many figures up there as usual. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, bad feeling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, drive a little, maybe I'm at a weird angle. Still 6. Oh shit. 1 has longer arms than normal, and they're held up. Did it always have that? Thoroughly creeped out. Punch it down the hill through the woods. Keep getting glimpses of something off to my side. But when I turn my head, I don't see anything. It feels like something's running parallel to me, on a dirt road, but still get up to 40 miles per hour. Sinking feeling in gut, still getting weird peripherals. Finally make it to a paved road. Punch it. Stop getting movement in peripherals once I hit a farm. Get back to camp. Check the phone for pick related. I took a few weeks earlier. Don't sleep that night. Never forget to say the saying.
Man, I wonder who the hell put those creepy things up. And it seems like those power line alleys are always filled with creepy stuff. First time I heard a Bigfoot story in real life was from a family friend who said he was walking down one and he saw a Sasquatch standing next to the power line pole, checking it out, then saw the hunter and quickly darted back into the tree line. I think they cut a line through the woods and force everything to cross and be able to be seen for a minute.
I used to live in a house from 2005 to 2019 that was basically haunted. The house was made up of 3 floors, each one a separate apartment. While the first floor would say they hear things, sometimes it was by and large the second and third floor apartments where activity was noticeable. Living on the 3rd floor, we would hear an unintelligible conversation down on the porch. Almost always the same thing. 2 male voices would start normally before it erupts into a full argument that peaks, then stops. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway and never pulling out, or anyone getting out. The bathroom seemed to be where you could hear voices conversing in the closet beside the sink. My 3-year-old cousin would talk to an imaginary girl named Cindy, whom she'd eventually become terrified of because of bad things Cindy wanted her to do. 2nd floor seemed to be where activity peaked, as the landlord really struggled to rent that one out for longer than 7 or 8 months at a time, with some exceptions. Ironically enough, when the 2nd floor apartment was completely vacant, the activity died down considerably. I used to have a neighbor down there named Jed who, towards the end of his tenancy, slept outside the place because he didn't like anything about the apartment. He never elaborated, just said the place had too much creepy stuff happen for his liking. There was also a family who lived there for a while because they had a Section 8 voucher the landlord readily accepted. The mother told my mom about things that happened down there. Notably how some nights a shadowy man would come into her son's room and told them vile things, like how their parents will kill each other. I once experienced a voice on a baby monitor when helping my mom babysit our neighbor's youngest kids. The voice sounded like the Wicked Witch after a meth binge, and smoking 10 packs of cigarettes a day for 50 years saying, "You little itch, I'll kill you." Towards the infant daughter.
Sounds like one exceptionally pissed off ghost. Spirits, when vengeful, can be very cruel and sadistic. I'd have recommended looking up records of anyone who died a violent or tragic death, then going to your local pastor to administer last rites and perform a blessing.
This shit sounds legitimately like the signs of a demonic haunting. It's likely it claimed 2nd floor as its nesting place and would simply go dormant when there wasn't anybody to terrorize.
Yeah, facts, it definitely sounds like that place had some majorly bad juju, lol.
An afternoon of winter 2010, in a woods when suddenly everything goes quiet. Whispers break the silence, then a howl echoes through the valley. A strong wind starts blowing. Feels like it's actually charging at me like some mad animal. Grass rustling like crazy. Wind grows so intense I have to protect my face with my forearms. As suddenly as it came, the wind ceases and silence takes over the forest again. Looking around, still astonished by what just happened, when I spot a ball of light flying down the mountain to my left. It emanates light, but doesn't look like it's made of fire. It's pure white in color and leaves a faint trail as it floats toward me. It's also distinctively solid as it zigzags through the trunks, stops a few feet away from me. Can now hear a low-pitch hum and constant sizzling coming from it. Initially just curious, I'm now overtaken by dread. Feel like this thing is waiting to jump at me. Even if I think of escaping, persuading my body to move is another matter entirely. Just close my eyes and start reciting Psalm 23:4. Put my heart at peace with dying, hoping to open my eyes to any sight but that thing. Gone. The ball of light has disappeared completely. At first, I suspect it's all a dream, since I don't feel that sense of fear anymore either. Just set to walk back to my house. But then I subconsciously acknowledge the reality of the situation and begin to bolt away.
I've got an orb story. August 2019. Going to the airport, catch the train to the airport early at 7 a.m., looking out over the rail yard, listening to a podcast. Across the way, there's some scaffolding. Notice what looks like a plastic bag drifting down from above the scaffolding. This was a Sunday, so no construction workers, but cast it off as just a bag. Nothing else to do, so keep watching it. As it gets closer to the ground level, it starts folding in on itself. Before it gets to the bottom floor, it shifts its trajectory to going left along the scaffolding while keeping a steady pace, still folding in on itself. WTF. It gets to the end of the scaffolding and goes back the way it came, literally stops for a second as if it turned around. Keep watching as it retraces its path back up from the area and into the sky and drifts behind a skyscraper. The second I lose sight of it, I see a second one appear further in the sky. Second one drifts still, doing that folding, floating thing, then in a flash of light like a sparkler, it disappeared in the bright blue sky.
Thanks, that's cool. How big were they, roughly speaking, of course?
2 to 3 feet in diameter. Wasn't a consistent shape, mind you.
Good morning, /X/. How did you sleep? Good? All right. Are you tired of all of this fake shit? Me too. And since Twitter just got banned by my country's marvelous law, I finally stopped lurking and will start posting real shit. Family has a cabin deep in the countryside woods right by an enormous lake. The biggest family tradition is, of course, fishing. Be my dad in his younger years. Fishing at night at said lake. Caught some fine-sized fish, felt good and prepared to head out. Start the motor on the boat, already way past midnight. The only light source beyond his flashlight is the full moon. Hear some rustling in the tall grass by his left. Approach the coast to get a look at what it is. Nothing. Whatever it is, it's hiding. Suddenly, he sees it crouching and immediately turns his flashlight off. It's an enormous gray wolf, head to toe in dark gray fur, yellow eyes shining and staring directly at him, none of them moving an inch. Complete silence as he's baffled looking at this majestic beast. Finally, he starts going home. The wolf follows him the entire time until he gets to the other side of the coast and gets home. Dad said it was gigantic, and in later years was convinced that it was either a spirit or a werewolf. The curious thing, this kind of wolf is not natural to the country. It does not and cannot live here, and has never been seen around here. So much haunted shit has happened in this cabin and area that it has become my favorite place in the world. I miss going there. Have a shit ton of stories if any anon is interested.
Brazil, do tell us more, Anon.
Sure. Here's one that's so surreal that I refused to believe until later years when I got older and saw my share of shit. 1970s. Dad and his older brothers are fishing at the same lake by the cabin in the woods. Late night fishing, around 2 a.m. They get some fish, but nothing really exciting. Try different lures, nothing. Eventually, the fishing dies down, no bites whatsoever. They all get tired and start planning to head home. Finally, they realize they can hear this very low humming noise. Everything is completely silent besides the low humming noise. Dad said to me it was like the air was vibrating. Then my Uncle Jose points his finger up and starts losing his shit. Dad and older brother Roberto look up and see it too. Dad said to me that it looked like a star descending directly to them. It gets closer, and finally it's hovering right above them. Dad said it looked exactly like a flying saucer, completely black, round, and with some dim lights running around it. The humming sound gets way louder, and Dad said he could feel his entire body vibrate. Uncle Roberto has a panic attack and starts throwing shit around, then passes out. This thing hovers above them for around 10 seconds more, and then shoots up the sky in a split second, and the shockwave almost capsizes their boat. The humming sound stops, and they head home covered in piss. I never believed this story. He told it to me only twice, and I was skeptical. Only started believing it when I asked my Uncle Jose about it, and he said, "You should ask your Uncle Roberto about it." And when I did, he got pale as milk and immediately changed the subject. Then later in private warned me to never mention it again in his presence.
I've had a run-in with some kind of spirit. I'm assuming it was native to the land. Hiked up a gully in the Rainbow Mountains with the wife. Hang out a bit. Very peaceful place up there. I think that little bowl in the mountains concentrates energy. Pick our way back down the gully. I pick up a couple neat rocks. One was a semi-transparent green granite, I think, with pink occlusions. Cut my toe jumping the stream. Get to the bottom of the gully where it opens up to the valley proper. Feel the need to turn around. See that my wife has too. Feels like we're being watched, but there's nothing there. Figure maybe it's a grizzly hiding behind a 3-foot-tall bush. Haha. As we get on the trail to the highway, the atmosphere becomes more oppressive, becomes very quiet. Normally, my schizo dog will sprint in and out of the woods non-stop, but she puts herself 5 feet in front of me and keeps swinging her head side to side. Get back to the truck. Book it north. About 30 miles north, encountered 5 moose in a bunch, huddled up like bison off the side of the road. Very unusual. Stop at a pull-off another 10 miles later to get something out of the camper. I stretch my legs while the wife roots around in there. Dog sniffs for a minute, then just walks up to me. Realize something is off. I realize it's so quiet all I can hear is my tinnitus. This spot is windy 99% of the year because of geography, and is teeming with migratory birds. It's July. Not even a mosquito. This is impossible. That oppressive feeling slams back over me. Hop back in the truck and book it. The feeling goes away 90 miles later, once we were on the outskirts of civilization. I don't know what the hell it was. Doubt it was a bear. Never smelled anything. That dead quiet on the side of the highway was supremely unnerving. Just nothing, and not even off in the woods. We saw an owl and a raven duking it out on the side of the road earlier in the day. Just strange all around.
What is the actual cause for this shit? It's so incredibly eerie when all of a sudden all signs of life just disappear, especially when even the insects disappear. You go from being constantly pestered by mosquitoes and shit to there just being nothing at all. People always make up excuses like how it's a predator in the area, but that's not at all how nature reacts to predators. Bugs don't care. Birds either don't give a fuck or they get even rowdier trying to drag the predator from their nests, or just outright attack it. Hell, I've ran into bears in a woods, and there was absolutely nothing off with the surroundings. I would seriously be just fine running into some monstrosity out in the woods, but when it's nothing but quiet and that feeling you get, it's too much.
I always assumed it was bears, but after having some encounters, especially with dogs around, I've learned to listen for it as a warning sign. When your adrenaline is maxed and you can feel something watching you, it's next level. Just like making eye contact across a crowd, you get a feel for it. Listen to your instincts, but don't panic. I always bring a dog now since they pick up on it a bit sooner. Some claim it's like infrasound IDK. I've just seen critters freeze and hide, then everything feels real ominous for no reason. I don't get that feeling with bears.
Not really that spooky, I guess, but from last night. Be me, Anon with GF. She stays at my place. It's an apartment with 3 rooms next to each other. Short hallway that leads to open living room with a kitchen plus bathroom on the other side. We lay on the bed, just fooling around, wrestling for a space. Suddenly hear footsteps inside of room. WTF.jpg. GF hears it too. Decide to jet into the middle room, my sleeping room. Side note, not the first time it happened, but not literally close to us. We lay on my bed trying to sleep, still hearing footsteps around the house. Not in my room. Suddenly overwhelmed by a feeling of sheer dread, me and GF almost panicked. She says we need to burn some dried up sage and light a candle. We calmed down a bit, but noises were still heard. And it's been going for 3 days, and previously 2 sometimes. Am I getting bamboozled by some poltergeist? Is it someone from my family visiting me? Mom died 9 years ago, plus grandmother and uncle, in a span of the last 3 years, had a prophetic dream about uncle dying too. While at it, let me post the whole experience about uncle. have an annual mass every anniversary of Mom's death. He's always present. It was his sister, after all, not present during the recent one. Known to have problems with alcohol. I think he just got drunk. Try to call him. Mute phone. Either that or he left for some extra job to one of his friends so he can have more shekels for alcohol. Forget about him and go about your own business. F like a week, going to bed, having a weird dream where I am at my uncle's place. I see him sleeping on the bed while TV plays in the background. No, not sleeping, he's dead. Wake up in the morning forgetting the dream. A day or two passes. At work, sis calls. Anon, uncle's dead. Turned out his drinking buddies were also worried he's not appearing at the bar. One of the dudes decided to take a trip to his place. He found him dead sitting in a chair. Corpse was rotten. Must have been there for over a week. Add high humidity and temperature at his place. Not a pleasant view. Per cops and mortuary workers. Am I a medium or my uncle reached out to me in his last moments?
Psychic gifts tend to revolve around one's own genetics than others, it seems. Blood is worried about blood.
Not really a good story, but be me, 8 years old, visiting relatives in the summer. They have a big garden with palm trees. Beyond the garden is a grove. Around sunset, in the garden with my cousin. She tells me to look at the palm tree. Giant rat walking slowly on a branch. This thing was the size of a large cat. Sunset, so we could only see its silhouette. In the following days, we went near the tree and could hear something jumping around on it. We ask her grandma about this. She starts talking about how these guys are kind of an urban legend in the town. Sadly, she then starts drifting off due to dementia. Kinda lame, I know, but I still don't understand what exactly I saw. The closest thing we have to a giant rat in my country is the nutria, but this one had a long rat-like tail.
I've heard about rats like the one you described. World War I veterans would recall seeing rats like that due to frequent feeding on the corpses of deceased soldiers, and they would get that big because they ate so much. Maybe it was a rat that got into someone's food supply, or maybe they were able to access a fast food dumpster at one point, and someone discovered it and chased it off.
Not a creature story, but spooky nonetheless. My friends and I visit abandoned places a lot. They look cool to take photos of. I can usually find old documents like newspapers and photos. At this abandoned hospital in Manchester called Barnes Hospital. Go up to the second floor and hear this tapping sound. Sound was repeating every 5 seconds on the dot. Just water.mp3. Me and my dumbass friends thought we should investigate. Follow the tapping thinking it's water dripping. After about 10 minutes of trying to locate the source, it stops. Pure silence. No birds, no wind, nothing, complete and utter silence. Slowly progress to where we think the water was coming from when we hear a loud-ass bang. So loud it made all 4 of us scream. We start pelting it towards the sound, running solely on adrenaline, and stop. We heard what sounded like running coming directly towards us. Footsteps getting louder. Feel this really cold breeze go past us, and 30 seconds later, a chair that was standing upright down the hallway topples on its back. My friend said he heard faint laughing shortly after that, but it was probably bullshit. I didn't hear anything, so couldn't confirm. We all just stood there looking at this chair completely frozen. Me and my friends never went there again. No idea what the hell it could have been. The footsteps we heard were so loud. The cold breeze we felt was real, and there's no explanation behind the chair falling over like that. There was hardly any wind on that day. Photo for reference, not taken by me.
Not exactly paranormal, but worth posting. Be me, be like 8. Parents decide to move out to the country, small town Nebraska, get an old house overlooking a little valley with a creek. The valley is overgrown with cottonwoods and prairie. Found out years later it was a game reserve. Can't be plowed or developed because of the floodplain. Start going to school, talking to kids in the lunch line one day. A girl asks where I live. I tell her. Oh, that's close to where the pigman lives. The pigman was a crazy lunatic who illegally lived in the valley near my house. Supposedly, he kept and butchered pigs and would nail their body parts to trees to mark his property. Thought it was fake, but... A fast forward 4 years. Me and friends are playing on a min-maintenance dirt road in the valley. Find a tree. Pig leg nailed to it. Creeps us out, but we keep walking. We think we're badass, infiltrating Pigman's lair. Go a mile down the road. Trees are overgrown, cottonwoods cover the road like a tunnel. Leaves shudder really loud in the wind. Find an old driveway. Massive pig head draped over a fence post near the gate. Shit was bloody, covered in flies and had tusks. Sprint out of there. I think Pigman died a few years later because I never saw anything like this again and people stopped talking about him. Apparently, he was squatting on public land, but no one could do anything about him because, well, how do you get rid of the insane half-feral guy nailing pig parts to trees? Pretty sure I found his house while hunting a few years later. Old railroad boxcar with furniture in it, illegally wired to a pole. Was full of pig bones and smelled worse than hell. A buddy of mine cleaned it out and still uses it as a hunting shed. Bet it's haunted.
I was reading a book while I was in the Navy. We had these bunk beds with curtains for privacy. I was alone in my dorm with the door closed. Pretty heavy metal door. And I saw the curtains moving as if someone was entering my bed. Head, arms, and ass printed under the curtains and moving in. I was alone in my dorm, sober and fully awake, reading some book with my lights on. It wasn't wind because the dorms were underwater and the AC blows from the center of the room, downwards, far from my bed. The ship was docked in the Mediterranean, so there couldn't be waves. They don't move the curtains like that anyways. And it wasn't someone sneaking. Those metal doors are made to withstand floods, and they are noisy AF when you open them. It was pretty strange. I always heard the ship was haunted because an officer off himself in the swimming pool near the dorms. I picked an interest in the topic a few days ago, and then it happened. I stopped thinking about it, and it never happened to me again. But there were sailors who would never sleep alone in the dorms because they were scared of the ghost.
2004-ish. I'm 14 years old. Occasionally went out to this steakhouse in the woods with my family for special occasions. On the way out, I have to use the restroom. Tell my parents I'll catch up. Step outside once I'm done. Steakhouse was situated off the main road and in a very rural, wooded area, and it had nothing but trees around. No lights except the one at the entrance of the steakhouse. See something shuffling towards me from the darkness. Feel something is very, very off. I am slightly relieved when I see it's just an old lady, but then I become unnerved again when I notice her eyes are closed. She grabs me by the arm roughly, asks me where the entrance is. Right here. We're at the entrance. The door is right. She lets go of me, turns around and walks back into the darkness. Chalk it off as some crazy old blind lady or something. Get to car. Anon, what were you doing? Giving a blind lady directions, I think? Dad looks at me with a weird expression. When? Inside? Tell him no, just now at the outside entrance. Mom looks super unsettled. Anon, we watched you the whole time. You were just standing there staring out into the woods for almost a minute. There was nobody else there. My face when?
Backwoods camping in a tent near Algonquin Park, Canada. Randomly woke up at the crack of dawn, lying in my tent. Only 3 of us on the trip. I hear my 2 friends snoring, but hear someone walking around the campsite. Distinct flip-flop sound as they take steps. Heart racing, but stayed silent for 5 minutes. Decide to open the tent and take a look. Slow steps and breaking branches heard in the distance. By the time I get my footing, find no trace of anything. Backwoods camping the next year. Different location, but around the same park. Randomly wake up at the crack of dawn, lying in a cabin. I hear the same sound as I did last year. Distinct flip-flop sound walking around the cabin grounds. Also hear some high-tone clinks, like 2 beer bottles hitting each other or metal hitting metal. Tried to record it, but the audio didn't capture it. No clear angle of the source of sound. Listening to the source of the sound move past the cabin. We have heard monkey sounds from that area before. Previously thought maybe a group of owls or even people messing with us. Does Sasquatch have sandal tech? Both times we were pretty remote, not near any groups of people. Has anyone had something similar? I can't think that an animal would have flip-flop sounds or even something remotely close.
Be me, 2015. Wake up one morning, digital clock reads 8:48 a.m. Get up, see my Uncle Steve in the kitchen of my parents' apartment. He seemed in a chill mood and he says, "Hey kid, how's it going?" Nothing strange. Tell him I'm good. We shoot the shit for about an hour. He tells me some story about how something he left at our place and was over to find it. It's a box of old family photos. Tells me to keep it and that he's got to be going. That he'll see everyone around sometime soon. My mom comes out of her and my dad's room, crying. She sobs about how Uncle Steve died early this morning. Curiously, I ask what time. Says his daughter found him dead a little past 8 this morning. Add up the time and realize I talked to a dead person 45 minutes after he passed away. I still to this day have small, odd things happen, like objects move slightly or footsteps. Never could figure out where he had to go so suddenly if he was gonna haunt me occasionally.
Early 90s, upstate New York. Family cookout. All the cousins, aunts, and uncles. Massive gathering. It's summertime, so it's super nice out. In the early evening, I happen to notice what looks like a homeless bum, walking at a leisurely pace out of the woods behind the house and towards the party. I tell my mom. She looks at the man and immediately calls for my dad. My dad takes one look at the dude and immediately says, "Jesus Christ, get everybody in the house." I clearly remember everyone running into the house as this man approaches from the woods. Just some dirty bum with a long beard. Looks to be maybe 50s, but could be younger. We watch from the porch windows as the bum lifts a picnic table full of food and drinks and flips it with one hand. I clearly remember my uncle wanting to go out and fuck the dude up. He even went to open the door to go out, but my grandpa stopped him. Dude turns and makes eye contact with me through the window. Smiles. Eventually stumbles back into the woods the way he had come and disappears. Now, what is so weird about all of this is that my dad was a lieutenant with the city police department. He could have had the whole department down there with one phone call, but he was terrified. My grandpa was a World War II Marine vet, and my uncle was a professional boxer. These were tough dudes, and they were all afraid of this dirty old bum. Grandpa and uncle have both passed, but I asked my parents about this a couple years ago, and they both claimed they don't remember it. Bullshit.
Be me about a year ago. Move out of my roommate's place because one of them flies off the handle at the smallest thing, and arguing with him is a no-win situation where even trying to defuse the situation ends in screaming and yelling louder. Also like talking about how much he suffers daily, and everyone abandons him anyway. Gee, I wonder why. Also had a habit of calling everyone else a narcissist. Spend a few nights living out of my car. Not the worst thing ever, but mildly uncomfortable. Usually find parking lots to pull into and not get noticed by cops. Find a post office parking lot to pull into. Sleep a few hours before going to the nearby YMCA to shower before work. Not able to really sleep all that much when I see something in the sky. Initially think nothing of it since the city airport is about 6 miles north, but I can make out it's larger than an average plane. Craft is huge, cigar-shaped thing with a large red light at the center. It's just gliding slowly up in the sky. Craft suddenly has its light turn white and I get this immediate bad feeling. I peel off, break speeding laws, and don't stop till I'm 6 hours away and several towns over.
Your old roommate sounds like somebody who got bullied as a kid and wants to make people hurt like he still clearly does. Fuck those types of people. They are almost always 100% useless.
Be hurting inside because of emotional trauma. Decide to lash out at people so they can be hurt too. Be surprised when people get fed up with the emotional and verbal abuse and want nothing to do with you anymore. I'd like to know the logic behind these kind of folks.
I got bullied as a kid, but I don't pull these stunts. It's weirdly the opposite. I'm quiet and chill around others and they freak out on me anytime they are having a bad time in life and taking it out on me. Every place I've ever had to move out of has been because of someone else's romantic relationship too. Getting sick of these normies constantly ruining my life with, well, we're a couple now. And it's weird to have you living here. Apparently one can just start to couple up and just declare imminent domain of whatever living situation they are currently in. But that's not /x/. I'm just venting about the monster known as single mothers.
They consider kindness a weakness, making you an easy target in their eyes, someone who won't fight back while they vent out their frustration. In those cases, violence is not the answer, it's a question. The answer is yes.
I practice lucid dreaming from time to time. I say this because I'm familiar with sleep paralysis and have heard stories about how people see or hear things during this state that aren't really there. I've never experienced such restless states, although I have experienced sleep paralysis. But one night I'm sleeping in my room, this time without trying to go into lucid dream, and I end up waking up from hearing the door to my room open and then close. For some reason, without even opening my eyes, I'm 100% sure that it was my father coming in. And I'm asking him, "Don't you have anything to do but coming into my room in the middle of the night?" And then I open one eye and see something like PIC related. In my mind, I'm thinking, oh shit, I must be paralyzed, need to wake up. I open my other eye and focus on this crap, and it doesn't disappear and stands at a distance of 1 or 1.5 meters from me. Fear rolls over me, and I'm literally thrown into the cold and can't move. Although I realize that this is a continuation of the paralysis, but it's still just fucking scary. About 2 minutes passed, and I was able to sit up, but I'm still in shock and don't understand why the hell I can still see this silhouette. I didn't scream, didn't ask for help because I still think that these are all echoes of sleep paralysis, but at that moment I didn't dare to approach this silhouette, which was there for about 5 minutes after I was already in a sitting position. And I just looked at it all this time trying to understand it until it began to gradually dissolve, but it looked strange anyway. I don't remember the particular moment when I fell asleep, but pretty sure it was not a dream.
I live in Fresno and have seen the fucking night crawlers on 2 occasions, but heard them fucking around with animals at least 1 other time. I lived out in the country, and to get to my house you had to go past an orchard, and then rows and rows of cattle grazing fields. I would bike through there and at dusk saw one bolt through the trees and out of sight, and a second time saw one hiding among a herd of cattle. My understanding and best guess is they must hang out in the blossom area because they camo well with the blossoms and hide among the cattle because the cattle don't mind them, and who notices an extra set of legs? Then they fuck with the cattle when they know it's safe and get out. They're assholes, but I think the coyotes usually keep them away.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentexts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.